Travis, do you remember what happened when I called you up and I had a password issue with, I think it was Gmail, and you said, well, do you remember what I did? Because I remember I did something that was so alarmingly stupid, you were like, didn't even want to say anything. What
Well,
did
I do.
do?
You hadn't updated your password in a decade, as I recall.
Which password?
Do you really want me to say it on recording?
No, but I mean for what account? Because they're all different now.
Your personal one, the one that you've had since the late 90s.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Terrifying. See, now you all know that if you can find that on Have I Been Pawned, go for it, because it doesn't work anymore. Hi, I'm Beau Friedlander, and I am, sometimes a victim of cybercrime, but often just writing about it.
And I'm Adam Levin. I'm former head of the New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs, founder of Cyber Scout, author of the book Swiped, and here to either make your day or scare the heck out of you.
Scaring is caring.
It is.
I'm Travis Taylor, resident tech geek and occasional voice of God.
Speaking of this sort of thing, did you see the news about Clubhouse and the fact that their API was wide open?
An API it stands for Application Programming Interface, which sounds super techy. Really, all it is the way that any app that you're using can send and receive data.
So how does that work with regard to Clubhouse?
So with Clubhouse, what that means is anyone who is accessing the API can find out about any of Clubhouse's members, their name, basic account info. So it's they pretty much just leave the door wide open to be able to tell everyone all about their user base. Parler had a similar thing happen with that was later on used to bust some of the people at the January 6th riots at the White House, just in terms of leaving the access completely open so you could find out not just how many people were on there, their names, in the case of Parler, their location, in the case of Clubhouse, their Instagram logins. So it's really sloppy security.
Have you noticed in the past few months that there has been a literal parade of major organizations leaving the door open in one form or another? Facebook, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, the list goes on.
Indeed.
Definitely.
I think the Parler one was kind of remarkable because this place where the January 6th assault on the Capitol was planned in large part was also the place where the FBI went to bust all those people when they posted photographs of themselves in the Capitol.
The Democratic chair of the House Oversight Committee is calling on the FBI to investigate Parler's potential role in the deadly U.S. Capitol attack and its possible use as a channel for foreign influence.
Which brings us to, one of your favorite things to talk about, which is oversharing.
Yeah, yes, people have a tendency, they have almost an unquenchable thirst to share every morsel of their lives with everyone else on social media. And I always never quite got why people feel the need to do this. And one of the biggest dangers is that so many people use real life, either out of wallet facts or out of life facts when they set up security questions and answers.
So what's an out of wallet fact, Adam? What would an out of wallet fact look like?
An out of wallet fact is something that would be, it's almost a financial identifier. People give away too much information as to where they live, what they drive, what they own, who they know, where they go. And this is where people open themselves up to trouble. Not to mention the fact that so many people love to talk about where they went to high school, where they went to college. And while those are all wonderful personal facts, the problem is that oftentimes this finds its way into the answers to security questions. So my attitude, if you're going to overshare, then the way that you can really show that you care about yourself is lie like a superhero. I mean, does Bruce Wayne tell us he's Batman? Does Clark Kent talk about the fact that he's Superman? I mean, maybe Lois Lane knows. But the truth of the matter is that you don't owe anyone the reality of your life when it comes to social media, when it comes to security questions and answers. If you went to Forest Hills High School, and the question is, where did you go to high school? Tell them you went to Sky High. Or if your mother's name is Brown, say that it's green. Again, all that's important is that when you're asked that question, the answer you give is the same answer you gave when you set it up. So it's not about veracity, it's about consistency.
So, Adam, today's story, actually, it's not really about oversharing, but it's definitely related to sharing. There's something that happens sometimes when a certain kind of photograph is posted where wow, the whole universe explodes open in a very specific way. So we're going to explore that a little bit today.
When my wife talks to me about my life on Instagram, which other than for strictly business doesn't exist, I post nothing personal. And my wife always says to me, she's very active in Instagram, she always goes, "You're a troll." I go, "I'm not really a troll, but sometimes it's easier to find out what you did for the day without having to ask you, is to basically see what you're doing on Instagram."
Today's show is about lurking.
Roy.
Hi.
So, Adam, I know you've never met him, but I talk about him all the time. Roy lives upstate with his wife, Obe, and they have a little farm. He told me a really funny story recently where I found him outside with his wife sleeping in a van. They both had flashlights and they were waiting for, I think, the enemy. Roy, can you tell them why you were sleeping in your van out in the yard at night?
The raccoons were eating all of my wife's like heritage corn. Just like every night there'd be a few more like stalks pulled down. So we were trying to, there's different things you can set up lights. There's different, I don't know if it was like some kind of animal urine or blood it's the raccoons, the predators. It's dealing with extreme wilderness. It's wild here.
It's a critocracy. So Roy, you're up in Cooperstown. Have you been spending any time at the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I've only been there when my parents came to visit. I don't have that much interest in baseball. There's a great farmers museum here, though, and a folk art museum, and also an opera. So a lot more in Cooperstown than just the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Cooperstown is how far from New York City and how far from Canada?
It's about 4 hours to New York City and about 5 hours to Montreal and Toronto. So it's kind of nicely situated between there, and like an hour west of Albany, to place it that way.
What do you do most of the time up there?
Well, I'm a painter and ceramic artist and homesteader, and I also trade stocks a lot. So those are my activities.
What is a farmer's museum? Because that's pretty cool. What's that?
The Farmers Museum is James Fenimore Cooper's old farm, part of the New York Historical Society, where they've moved I'd say it's about 24 historical buildings, like an apothecary, a blacksmith's shop, a church, and they're all working buildings, print shop. So it's sort of like people in period costume cooking and, letterpress printing and blacksmithing, and they offer like blacksmithing classes, and it's amazing. It's the best thing here, really.
So it's kind of like a version of Williamsburg, but in New York, Williamsburg, Virginia.
Yeah, or like a Sturbridge Village type place. The buildings are all exquisite, like things that were moved here. So they're all like original buildings, and the classes they offer too, I think, makes it really special that it's useful for the community here and not just some tourist site.
Going back to one other thing you mentioned, what kind of art do you do?
Let's see, how would I describe it? It's very like folk primitive based, but I guess it would be considered contemporary art. Collage of materials. Also very inspired by sort of pre-Renaissance Italian, and learning different crafts. So sort of taught myself how to make frescoes and combined ceramic relief tiles that I make, like embedding them in frescoes. So yeah, pretty mixed media, like, and making frescoes that are portable. So sort of making them on foam. So sort of a combination technology of like surfboard meets church in the medium.
So Roy, so it's clear that you are at one with the earth. And based on being sort of an earth person, how did it happen that you ended up with a cybersecurity issue?
It was right before the inauguration. I think when Parler got kicked off of their own app was shut down by, I don't know, was it Amazon or Apple? Everyone kind of shut them down. And it was in the news that everyone from Parler was migrating to Telegram. And I'm pretty active on Telegram, just in different stock chat rooms or following different companies that sort of have ongoing Telegram chats. So just was doing a search for like Parler on Telegram and saw like, I mean, it was like tens of thousands of people filling up these rooms. And just wanted to kind of observe. I had never been on Parler, so just wanted to observe the kind of crazy QAnon chat going into what was a really scary inauguration. Just, you know, obviously after what had happened on the 6th. And being in those rooms was just a little too tempting to get into conversations with people, and invited different friends in there. And we were kind of pretending like we were Trump supporters, but who were like finding out what a sham he was and you know, pointing out like his, did you, like, you see his tax returns, this article in the New York Times, or these rape cases, or just sort of being like a disaffected Trump supporter. And
now, Roy, I got to break in here and like confess.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Wait, Beau's about to make a confession?
I think Travis knows about this too. I was on Telegram with Roy, and Roy and I would be texting back and forth saying, now you tell him blank. And okay. And then we would go back and, you know, first of all, Telegram, if you don't know what it is it's an encrypted app. It is end-to-end encrypted, isn't it, Travis?
Not for the desktop version, actually.
It's a way that people communicate. It's an app, and there's also a desktop version where people can message with each other, and it's fairly safe place to do that. And then Parler, in case you don't know what that is, it's basically Twitter for right-wing people and QAnon types. A lot of Trump supporters on there. So my confession, Adam, is that I was lurking on the Parler threads with Roy, and we were poking the bear.
You first told me when you were on Telegram, you were like, I can see your phone number. I had this moment of freak out, like, oh my God, my phone number is out there.
A note is that our telephone numbers are probably the most ubiquitous thing that you can think about now. You know, people talk about Social Security numbers being unique identifiers. Telephone numbers have become the ultimate unique identifier right now.
But why is that, Adam? Come on, why?
Because everybody tends to give out their phone number to everybody.
And how is that a liability? Like, go ahead, call me. I'm just going to not pick up or tell you to stop calling.
Well, unfortunately, first of all, people do pick up even though they shouldn't pick up. And the second thing is that for people who use two-factor authentication, where the code is sent in order to be the second level of identifying you as you, the code goes to your phone. If someone were to hijack that phone number, which is becoming a little bit more common than the old days, you could have a problem in the fact they could hijack your number and they could be getting the code and they could be using that as a way to get into your accounts. Hey there, campers. Look, if you have a story about being a victim of a hack, we'd love to hear about it. Give us a call at 623-252-1828. That's 623-252-1828 or email stories@whatthehackpod.com.
Okay, we were lurking. Fair enough, Roy?
Well, it went from lurking to trolling. I mean, I got kicked out of like room after room, and we'd go to like a different parlor room.
But you were being very, very provocative, as I recall.
I mean, yeah, we were like the My Pillow guy. He's not even giving the troops pillows, like just freaking out over things. It's like trying to be as funny as possible. And then they'd out us. They'd be like, you guys are obviously like fake Trump supporters.
But there were also those dudes, I forget the guy's name, but his name was like Sedona or something. And he was like really gentle and kept trying to like recruit us. He'd be like, well, you don't know the whole story. You should just listen a little bit and maybe you'll learn something. And then you'd be like, are you kidding?
Yeah, he was the one who banned me for sure.
So there were all these images and stuff there, and there was people posting stuff left and right, and it was kind of hard to see who was who. Where was your cyber incident in here?
Well, okay, so I'd gotten kicked out of like the really bigger rooms and was just then, I couldn't even find any more parlor rooms. So I went to look for different QAnon rooms and I saw one and it was like maybe 20 or 30 people, same routine, like just was troll posting. And there were these crazy like GIFs I'd never seen, like evil clowns with their arms and like jaws opening. And I mean, that to me seemed like it could have been some kind of virus. But in any case, so I'm posting. They're like, yelling back at me, this or that. Then all of a sudden I see a picture posted. And it was a picture of me that doesn't exist on the internet. That's like only on my phone and my computer. And just completely like freaked out. I just immediately like shut down the app, the computer, like just everything, like slammed down like my MacBook, like shut off my phone. Like that was a picture from like 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago. It was a picture my wife had taken of me and we were in like Venice Beach. It was in a restaurant. I mean, but they had to have gone back through like 3 years of pictures to grab that.
And you'd never posted that picture anywhere online, and neither had Ope?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I realized it's on. She must have sent it to me from her phone to my phone that I had it.
This is almost like the scene in the shower in the Alfred Hitchcock movie Psycho, where this is now the music. So he's kind of like...
Well, I think Obed just like made dinner and sort of, I couldn't even tell her at first. Like, I didn't know what, like, it was still just like processing this and just felt so exposed and vulnerable. And like, what are the ramifications of this? Like,
that's when you called me. And
I think, I texted you or
passwords.
called you and were like, what do I do? Or can you go in and try to find this room and see what else they posted or what they're saying? Like, and the room was gone. You couldn't find it. I went back on. I couldn't find it. And it's like the room was just gone.
I went back to that room. Now, this was a moment where it was like, sorry, sir, the call is coming in from inside the house.
You hear me? It's coming from inside the house.
I was just like, oh God. I went to the page and I was like, no, there's no one there, Roy. There's 2 people there, and one of them is Sedona, and he's still trying to get me to join QAnon.
No, that was the parlor room, though. That was different.
Oh, that was a different. Whatever it was, it went from whatever thousands it was to nothing. And that was
all the parlor rooms were gone too.
Yep. So I don't know about you, Adam, but I feel like I'm waiting for the voice of God to kind of bounce into my head right now, because I have no idea what happened here.
Okay, so the first option The first possibility could be a type of malware called Telegram. And that is something that, as the name implies, targets Telegram users and is capable of taking files off of your computer or your device. It can also be used for mining cryptocurrency. The second one, which is, I think, one that's a bit scarier, but also a bit more interesting, is something called steganographic hacking, which is quite a mouthful there.
Is it related to the dinosaur, or is it?
It is.
What is it?
Yes. So stegosaurus means roof lizard or covered lizard, and steganographic means either roof writing or covered writing. So the way that works is you have a picture, maybe one of those GIFs that Roy saw, or it can be a video or an audio file that is being used to also convey some sort of data or some sort of malware. And that can be really, and that has been found on both Telegram and WhatsApp in the past. There was a famous security hole there where all you needed to do is send someone a picture and then you could compromise their app.
I feel like it was that GIF more than anything else. I mean, just the way that stuck in my head is like being like, this is the scariest like GIF I've ever seen. Like,
and they can look more innocuous than that. They don't necessarily need to be scary GIFs.
So Travis, I have a question about the Stegosaurus, the roof lizard. So my understanding of it is that it is often used as a trigger. So there's already something on your computer. The image actually flips. It's like a tripwire for malware that's already somewhere in your works. Am I wrong on that, or is that?
No, that's one of the ways that it can work. So if you were to take a tiny little bit of malware, just a very small amount of code that's for the most part dormant or inert, it's waiting for further instructions. It's a bit like one of those spy movies where you have a sleeper agent. So you have like a sleeper file on your computer. And then if you see the wrong image, or file, video, audio, anything like that.
Or the right image.
Exactly, yeah. But that can be the trigger there to tell the malware, okay, we're off to the races, and then it'll activate.
So Travis, one quick question. So that means you don't have to click anything? It's just when that video shows up?
It depends, but one thing that people often don't really keep in mind is when you're seeing any image online, it is being downloaded to your device in a temporary format. It's usually kept in just a cache file, either on your computer or on your phone. But as soon as you're seeing a file, it has been transmitted to you. It's not remote anymore. So anything you're seeing is actually getting downloaded to your device.
Okay, that's pretty terrifying.
So what happened when you called up your dumb friend who sort of knows about cyber stuff?
I think you recommended that I get Malwarebytes and run that, empty caches, clear cookies, restart. I put out a fraud alert on all my credit cards. Changed passwords, Googled what to do in these situations, and just watched everything. And I still am. I don't know if these were just kids messing around and they just wanted to try to find an embarrassing picture to shut me up or get me out of there, or if there's something lurking and they're waiting to figure out how to drain my bank account. But I've seen no other sign of any activity, nothing. And Malwarebytes hasn't found anything.
So do you check your bank accounts?
I'm trading every day. So yeah, I'm pretty aware of what's going on.
Did you sign up for notifications from your financial institutions that notify you anytime there's activity in your accounts? Because you can do that with banks and credit card companies. You might even be able to do it with brokerage firms, too.
I would get a notification if someone signed in from somewhere else. I could go to two-factor authentication every time I sign in, which I'm considering.
I have two-factor authentication, and in particular, there's one financial institution where every time I sign in, it then says, okay, we're going to send a text to your phone, and I sometimes go,
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, that is just an extra layer of protection, which is really important, especially now that you have been exposed somehow, and that you need to really sort of double down.
What about leaving things open, like overnight? Like if you're in some account and you just leave it open, like is that?
It's better to close. When you're done with an account, sign off. Get out. Now, some people, in terms of your computer, and once again, the voice of God, Travis, can give us an idea about this, but isn't it best at the end of the day just not to log out of your computer, to shut it down, or to log out but leave it on?
It's more power efficient to log out but to leave it on. It's sort of counterintuitive, but it uses more electricity to turn on your computer than it is to leave it running in sleep mode. That being the case, it's always a good idea just to log out of your account or to lock your account. So either for Windows or Mac OS, they'll have the thing where you need to enter in your PIN code or your facial verification or something like that. That means that, in case anyone happens to get access to your device, they're not going to be able to just see whatever it was that you were just doing or have full access to your files.
So, but definitely like log out of like Safari or whatever browser and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It might not even be a bad idea to delete your history as well every day. Just simple practice.
Wow.
And, that doesn't mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, but I believe that, for instance, if you find a website that you really like, save it in your favorites, right? But at least kill your history daily if you can.
Yeah, it's a good idea to kill your history, go through and clear off your cookies, anything like that could just be leaving your fingerprints across where you've been or what you visited. Especially if you're, trolling QAnon people.
And I think that's one of the other messages is perhaps it's best not to troll those who might not appreciate the trolling.
That was a lesson I learned. I mean, for sure, it's like if you're gonna troll QAnon, like do it from like a burner computer or something. Like
I get reminded of that every night when I come home, but you were trolling me again. It's like, well, I mean, it's a shortcut to not having to bother you by saying, so how was your day?
Yeah, you're a bit of a lurker. It's different than trolling. Trolling's like, hurling bombs. And I think the lesson is troll all you want, but make sure that you're wearing armor. And I think also, Travis, the one thing the only question I have outstanding in all this discussion is, why doesn't malware see this piece of dormant code that is triggered by the image that may have been what happened to Roy? Why would that piece of code be sitting there undetected by a malware, antivirus?
I mean, one of the first things that anyone who's making malware wants that program to do is to not be found.
You can try, but you'll never catch me.
One way that a lot of malware can be detected is if it's trying anything sketchy on your computer. So if you just have a file sitting there, you can think about how many millions of other files are just kind of hanging out on your computer, not doing anything. It's when they suddenly activate and try to access your files or access your network or something. That's often with the anti-malware program when they get triggered and say, okay, this is suspicious.
I didn't have malware running though, so there's that.
But we also know that the genius of hackers is that every time someone gets on to whatever their malware is, it's like, they simply find a workaround. They just tweak it just a teeny little bit that makes it undetectable yet again, correct?
That's right, exactly. There's a new trick that hackers are doing, which I think is ingenious and scary, that it knows when it's being inspected by a malware program or by a cybersecurity researcher. That oftentimes what they do to research malware is to run it on something called a virtual machine. And what this malware does is it checks to see if it's actually running on a virtual machine and then says, if so, don't do anything and just hide. Only once you're on someone's personal device would it start to activate.
So Roy, did you learn anything today? I mean, did you learn anything?
It was probably the scary clown gif. But I mean, no, I guess just like shutting everything down regularly. I don't know. That's new information to me.
Roy, really quickly, what we call it is the 3 M's, which is you always have to work hard to minimize your risk of exposure by reducing your attackable surface. You need to monitor, and you need to have a way to manage the damage. For some, it's calling Beau. For others, it's calling their insurance agent, their financial services rep, or the HR department where they work and say, do you have a program that can help me through an incident? Am I in it? If not, what do I need to do to get in it? Is it free, which it could be as a perk of your relationship? Is it deeply discounted, or what do I have to pay?
The setting up fraud monitoring was fairly easy.
Yeah, you want fraud monitoring. In particular, you want identity monitoring that's obviously looking for fraud and is scanning the dark web to see what of your information or even your images, your photographic images, are lurking around on the dark web.
One other thing that we did not mention today, which I think is really important, is setting up credit freezes so that whenever you're doing anything that involves your credit, opening a new account, moving an account, shopping for a mortgage, whatever, you have to unfreeze your credit so that whoever's looking can look. If you don't do that, they can't look. And what that does is it protects you from ever getting scammed in that way. No person can get in there and steal from your credit, which is a pretty valuable asset. It's like a kinetic asset, right? It's money that you can have, but you haven't activated. And there's plenty of criminals out there who are just waiting to do that. So a freeze, I think it's a great idea when you've been compromised like you were.
I have a question though. I mean, I don't know how much experience or, how many types of hacks or similar hacks you've heard of, but just what you think like they could be after. I mean, was it just like, shut this guy up? Like,
it can be a combination of things. It could be that, first they're trying to get a way into your system in order to gain access to either the data in the system, or that every time you log into an account, it's transmitting that information to the hacker. It could also be just sending you a message, which is, we know who you are, and at least in the digital world, we know where you live.
And shut up.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Well, what a great show. This has been awesome. Roy, it was great to talk to you, to finally see there's the real human being. And secondly, to learn a little bit about Cooperstown, New York, and to find out something that, to explore with you an incident which could be more and more common with people depending upon where they're looking and what they're looking at and who they're communicating with. So thank you so much for joining us on What the Hack?
Thank you, Roy.
Great to meet you. Great to see you, Beau. Thanks for having me. Thanks for helping me.
We'll see you later. Bye, Roy.
What the Hack is a Loudtree Media production in partnership with Large Media. That's LARJ Media. You can find What the Hack wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to follow us on social media and find additional information at adamlevin.com.